"You are not coming to Thanksgiving," my dad said casually, so I took back my $6,000. I was sprawled out on my worn-down couch, half interested in a crumpled car magazine, the low hum of my electric heater buzzing faintly in the background, when my phone rang, shattering the calm of a late October evening. I tapped the speaker button, fully expecting my dad's usual growl. Maybe the garage door was jammed again, or maybe Mom had wrecked another batch of cupcakes. But what came through hit like a punch to the gut. "You're not coming to Thanksgiving this year, Amanda," he said, plain and unaffected, like he was canceling a dentist appointment. "It's better this way. Keeps your sister happy." The magazine slipped from my fingers, the pages fluttering to the floor like dry leaves. His words echoed slow and bitter. "What?" I croaked, voice rough like rusted metal scraping together. He sighed, that long, world-weary exhale he always used to dodge any real conversation. "Melanie's been wound tight lately. You know how she gets. She doesn't want the stress. Neither do we. It's easier if you sit this one out." My boots hit the scuffed hardwood as I sat up, my eyes fixed on the chipped corner of the coffee table under the flickering light of my second-hand lamp. "Sit this one out," I repeated, the words turning to dust in my throat. "So I'm being excluded from Thanksgiving because Melanie is tense." His voice didn't waver, cool, settled, final. "Don't make this bigger than it is, Amanda. It's one day, you'll be fine." A surge of heat twisted in my chest, my fingers curling around the edge of the table. "One day," I said, my tone sharpening like steel, "and the $6,000 I've spent this year to keep your house warm, does that mean nothing too?" The silence that followed was thick. The line crackled before he finally muttered, "Let's not bring that into it. You offered to help." I let out a harsh, guttural laugh, slicing through the peeling walls of my apartment. "Offered?" I stood, the floor creaking under my weight. "I've been paying your heating bill for 2 years now, $6,000 just this year, because you and Mom couldn't afford it, after Melanie's little crash and burn drained your savings. But sure, let's pretend I begged for it." His grunt was sharp, laced with irritation. "We appreciate it, Amanda, but this isn't about money, it's about family. Melanie needs this, she's not in a good place." I walked over to the window, watching as the first flakes of snow danced against the glass, the glow of the streetlights casting a blurry haze. "Fragile," I muttered, my breath fogging the glass. "Melanie needs. Melanie always needs, and I'm always the one paying for it. Not this time. Enjoy your peaceful Thanksgiving, Dad." I ended the call with a single jab of my finger and tossed the phone aside, its screen going dark. Melanie, the golden one, prom queen, bakery princess, Dad's little artist. Even when her world came crashing down 2 years ago, 20 grand gone in a flash, wasted on a failed boutique she swore would revolutionize fashion, she still held her crown. The website tanked in weeks, unsold clothes molding in a leaky storage unit, while Mom wept and Dad just shook his head and muttered, "She'll bounce back." I hadn't said a word, just stepped in, took over the heating bill, because winters up here are brutal, and without me they'd have frozen. $500 a month, $6,000 a year, all of it wired straight from my warehouse paychecks. Meanwhile, Melanie posted pictures in luxury coats and rooftop bars. I let it slide, because family. Until now, until I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. I grabbed my laptop from the shelf and sank back into the couch, its frame groaning under me. I logged into the utility account, the one I'd created for them. My name was on it. I'd made every call, scheduled every oil delivery, made every single payment. Because Dad couldn't figure out the website and Mom just smiled and said, "You're so good at this, Amanda." There it was, $6,000, gone, earned through overtime, backaches, bitter cold shifts at the warehouse. I hovered over the button and clicked, "Cancel service." My touch was firm, just like the frost creeping in outside. A notice popped up, "Service discontinued effective November 1st, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving." I snapped the laptop shut. A slow, grim smile crept over my face. Let's see how fragile Melanie feels when the heat's gone. The days that followed dragged on, snow piling higher outside my apartment. The wind howled. The cold seeped into every crevice. No calls, not yet, just the quiet rhythm of my own life. One night I grabbed dinner at the local diner with Brian, an old high school friend turned full-time mechanic. The place was warm, buzzing with chatter and clinking cutlery. He slid into the booth across from me, a basket of fries between us. "You're quiet," he said, smearing ketchup across his fingers. What's up? I took a pull from my beer, the bottle cool in my hand. They uninvited me from Thanksgiving, I said, after I paid their heating bill, $6 grand this year alone. His eyes went wide, a glob of ketchup hit the table as he froze. You're kidding. And they just assumed you'd keep paying. I popped a fry into my mouth and nodded. Not anymore. I shut it off. Effective November 1st. Brian let out a low bark of a laugh, earning a side eye from the waitress. That's brutal, cold even. I smirked, clinking my bottle against his. They chose Melanie. I'm choosing me. The diner's warmth wrapped around me, a welcome contrast to the icy storm I'd just triggered. And for the first time in a while, something inside me felt solid, settled. The storm hit, thick, relentless. I shoveled snow, bought salt, picked up soup and bread from the corner store. The cashier rang up my groceries with a casual, "This one's gonna be a rough one." I nodded, lips tugging into a grin. So I've heard. The first text came midweek while I was sweeping the floor. Dust floated in the golden afternoon light. "Mom, Amanda, the heat's out. Did you forget to pay? It's getting cold." I dumped the dust into the trash and ignored it. An hour later, voicemail from Dad. "Furnace is down. Check into it, Amanda." I didn't. Then Melanie. "Fix this. It's freezing. Do something." I leaned the broom against the wall, staring at the blinking notifications. The heat in my apartment purred, constant and reassuring. Let them sweat, or freeze. By mid-November, the messages rolled in faster. "Mom, it's 55 degrees. Call the oil company." "Dad, pay it. This isn't funny." "Melanie, you're heartless." "I'm freezing." I was hauling crates when I listened to Mom's voicemail. "Amanda, it's dropping fast. We're in sweaters. What's going on?" I smirked, stacking boxes. Winter had arrived. Thanksgiving was a week away, and a major cold front was on its way. Perfect timing. That Saturday, I was in the kitchen, slicing onions for stew. The broth simmered on the stove, windows fogged with steam. My phone buzzed non-stop. 10 missed calls from Mom, 7 from Dad, a river of texts from Melanie. "Mom, Amanda, it's 45 degrees. We're freezing." Dad turned the heat back on. "This is serious. Melanie, you've ruined everything. I'm getting sick." I stirred the stew, the aroma thick in the air, and sat down to eat. Their chaos could wait. I savored every bite. Thanksgiving morning arrived with a fury. A blizzard howled outside my windows, snow swallowing the street below in thick, blinding white. Inside, I stayed warm in my jeans and flannel, the scent of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around me like a blanket. My plans were simple: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, canned green beans, no turkey, nothing that would tie me to them. My phone was a war zone. "Mom, Amanda, it's 40 degrees. We're wearing coats inside. Please. Dad, you need to fix this now. It's dangerous." "Melanie, you're heartless. I'm sick. You did this." I poured my coffee slowly, savoring the bold aroma. The storm screamed outside, windows rattling with each gust. In my mind, I saw their dining room, the scarred oak table, Mom fussing over lumpy mashed potatoes, Dad slicing into his bone-dry turkey, Melanie sulking in a luxury coat while the cold crept in around them. 40 degrees, uncomfortable, sure, but tolerable, for now. By noon, the wind had picked up, snow falling in sideways sheets. The street outside had disappeared into a white blur. 23 missed calls. The latest voicemail from Mom trembled. "Amanda, it's 35 degrees. Melanie's crying. We're wrapped in blankets. Please, just call someone." I turned the oven on, the heat flooding my kitchen. I slid in the chicken, steam rising from the roasted vegetables beside it. Another message from Dad. "This is insane. Fix it, Jan. Melanie's sick now." I sat down with my plate: juicy chicken, creamy potatoes, crisp green beans, the flavors warm, comforting, grounding. Their chaos couldn't reach me here. By 3 p.m., another voicemail from Mom arrived, more desperate than the last. "It's 32 degrees. Our fingers are numb. Amanda, I'm begging you." I clicked play on a true crime podcast, some story about betrayal and secrets. How fitting. I leaned back, letting the heat and quiet wrap around me. Around 6 p.m., the doorbell rang, a sharp, unwanted intrusion against the storm's roar. I glanced through the peephole. Dad stood on the porch, bundled in a heavy coat, snow clinging to his hood, face red with cold under the glow of the porch light. I cracked the door, leaning against the frame. Warm air spilled out, curling into the frigid night. He looked furious. "Amanda," he snapped, his breath fogging in the air. "The heat's been off for weeks. This is your doing, isn't it? The house is an icebox." I crossed my arms, unmoved. "You told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. Said it was best for Melanie. I assumed that meant you didn't need anything else from me either." His expression contorted shock, then anger, then something close to desperation. "It was just one day. Melanie's having a hard time. Your mother's falling apart." I stepped forward, voice calm but solid. "One day, I've paid $6,000 this year, 2 years straight, while Melanie plays dress up and pretends to hustle. You made your choice. Now you're cold. Pay the bill yourself." His arms flailed, snow flying from his sleeves. "We can't, Amanda. We're broke. It's 30 degrees in there." My stare didn't waver. "Not my problem. Happy Thanksgiving." I shut the door, locked it. His angry voice faded into the blizzard. Then the engine of his truck roared and disappeared into the white. Back inside, my phone lit up like fireworks. "Mom, Amanda, please. We're freezing. Melanie, you're ruining everything. Dad, this isn't over. Call me back." I silenced the phone, let the podcast continue, and finished my meal in peace. Friday brought calmer weather, but their panic only deepened. Around midday, my cousin Naomi called. Her voice practically sparkled with laughter. "Amanda, you've got them unraveling. Melanie says she has frostbite. Your mom's wrapped in every blanket in the house. Your dad's asking neighbors for space heaters. What did you do?" "Stop paying their heating bill," I said, scraping ice from my walkway. "I covered it for years. 6,000 this time. Then they told me not to come, so I stopped." Naomi let out a snort. "That's cold. Savage, but cold." "They made their bed," I said, leaning on the shovel. "Now they can freeze in it." She filled me in. How they slept in layers. Thanksgiving dinner untouched. The house had dropped to 28 degrees overnight. "They're miserable," she said. "Amanda, you're a legend." December rolled in, wrapped in snow and silence. I kept to my routines: work, coffee runs, quiet evenings filled with the steady hum of my heater. Naomi called a week later, while I stirred chili on the stove. "They're still a mess," she said. "Melanie ran off to stay with a friend. Your mom's living under a mountain of blankets. Your dad's pleading with the oil company." "Figured it out yet?" I asked, tasting the chili. "Barely. They scraped together enough for a tiny refill. Your mom's guilt-tripping everyone. Your dad's pouting, and Melanie, playing the victim." I stirred the pot, amused. "Let them handle it." Naomi laughed. "You're ruthless. Remind me never to piss you off." We hung up. I ate in silence, the storm a distant whisper outside my windows. A few days later, I was unloading pallets at work when my phone buzzed. Another voicemail from Mom. Her voice was small, fragile. "Amanda, we're barely getting by. Can we fix this?" I balanced a box on my shoulder, whispered, "Figure it out," and deleted the message. One night, while sipping tea and watching snow glitter in the streetlights, the doorbell rang again. It was Dad. Snow clung to his coat, his expression drawn and pale. I cracked the door, not saying a word. "Amanda," he said, voice hoarse. "It's been weeks. The house is unbearable. Your mom's sick. Melanie's gone." I leaned on the doorframe, heat flooding the space between us. "You told me cutting me out would keep Melanie happy. How's that working out?" His jaw tightened. "We never thought it would get this bad. Your mom's struggling. Melanie's disappeared. We didn't think." "You didn't think," I echoed. "I paid your heat for 2 years. 6,000 this year alone, all while you catered to her. You made a choice." He stepped closer, hands clenched. "We can't do this, Amanda. It's 35 degrees inside. We have nothing left." I took a slow sip of tea. "Your choices, your consequences. I'm done cleaning up the mess." I shut the door. Lock clicked. Protests muffled. Footsteps crunched away. The weeks passed. Snow piled up. My life went on, steady, warm. Naomi's final update came over beers at the diner a few days later. The fries between us had gone cold, but her grin was electric. "They're barely keeping it together," she said. "Tiny oil deliveries just to stay above freezing. Melanie's couch surfing. Your mom's calling every relative she can think of. Your dad's selling off everything not nailed down. You really shattered them, Amanda." I took a slow sip of my beer. "I didn't break anything. I just stopped saving them. She raised her bottle. To freedom. We clinked glasses. Warmth settled deep in my chest, steady and earned. January came with an unrelenting chill. I spent a quiet evening on the couch, coffee in hand, city lights flickering through the windows, snow softly blanketing the sidewalks below. Then came the knock. I peeked through the peephole. Mom stood there, her coat pulled tight around her, scarf dusted with snow. Her eyes were sunken, tired. I opened the door a crack, not stepping aside. "Amanda," she said, voice cracking, "we made a mistake. This winter, the cold, the fighting, it's been miserable. We didn't realize how much you did, for all of us." I took a long, slow breath. Steam curled from my mug. "You never did notice. I kept that house warm for 2 years, $6,000 this year alone, until I stopped." She stepped forward, desperation in her expression. "We're sorry. Melanie is too. We didn't mean to push you away. Can we fix this?" I shook my head slowly. "Not now. I'm warm. You figure it out." I closed the door, locked it. Her voice was muffled through the wood, fading with her footsteps as she disappeared into the cold. February dragged in, heavy with snow. The iciness of their mess lingered in the air like smoke from an old fire. Naomi called one afternoon while I was painting my bedroom, the scent of fresh white paint filling the space. "They're wrecked," she said, laughter dancing on her words. "Melanie got dumped by the friend she was staying with. Your mom's holed up in some cheap motel. Your dad's selling off anything he can get a few bucks for." I wiped a smear of paint from my hand, stepping back to admire the clean wall. "They made that world," I said. "I just stopped heating it." Naomi laughed, the sound sharp and delighted. "They're still trying to get help, but no one's listening anymore." I watched the paint dry, the silence around me warm and safe. March arrived. The snow started to melt, but the stench of their desperation still clung to the air like rotting wood. One morning, I was outside, splitting logs for the fire pit behind my apartment. The axe sliced clean through the wood with a satisfying crack. My phone buzzed. "Naomi again." "Amanda," she said, her voice giddy. "They're done. Melanie's back to couch hopping. Your mom's begging for money from anyone who'll listen. Your dad's run out of junk to sell. It's all catching up with them." I swung the axe again, stacking the clean split logs into a neat pile. "They built their world," I said. "I just stopped keeping it warm." She cackled. "You're brutal. I kind of love it." I didn't respond. I lit the fire in the pit, the flames curling skyward against the fading frost. They could freeze. I'd stay free.